I'm like, this guy, he's probably making millions of dollars doing what? Just opening a door. And so I got out of the landscaping industry and started residential. What I found doing that was I was frankly shocked at, it was less about sales. It was more about just helping people. And, I attribute a lot of my successes, frankly, just being honest.
Hey, welcome to the show, Leading and Growing Your Real Estate Business. This is Coach James Short, aka Shorty, and this is a show for those within the real estate industry wanting to lead and grow their real estate business. It's a series of interviews that we conduct for those within the industry. So we're finding out what those leaders are within the industry, what makes them tick, what's their story, what are their strategies, and how to become the leaders and the growers within the industry. But also, it's an interview series with those outside of the industry. I'm always a big believer of looking at a whole different part of the pie rather than just focusing on one part of the pie. Because what it does, it allows you to have a different perspective, allows you to get snippets or golden nuggets from those outside of the industry that can look in the industry and go, there's a different perspective. And so I encourage you to reach out to the guests. I encourage you to lean into these series to find out how can these pieces of information, experiences, stories help you lead and grow your real estate business. And welcome back to another edition. I'm excited to have our next guest on the show. We have Tyler Barnes from WC Commercial Realty. Tyler came to WCCR with a background in small business ownership and residential real estate brokerage. He started his own successful landscape company and at its peak with the desire to create even deeper connections to his clients and their needs. He transitioned into residential real estate, completing over $30 million in sales in his first short years in the business. Tyler was introduced to WCCR through another team member who suggested he brings his high aptitude for connecting, advising, and advocating for his clients to the commercial space. He brings a proven skill set to the industry, providing clients with creative solutions, high impact communication and negotiation, and a standout deal management. Born and raised in the Pacific NW, Tyler has a deep roots in the community, including volunteer positions in and around the East Side, with dual memberships in the Commercial Brokers Association and the Northwest MLS. Tyler is focused on community commercial as well as multifamily investment, bringing residential background, including successful navigating a highly competitive market to his clients. Wow, it's an honor and a privilege to have on the show. Tyler, man, welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate it, man.
Fantastic. So what sparked the itch of getting actually into real estate in the beginning?
To be completely transparent with you, my parents, they worked incredibly hard throughout their lives. They're very traditional, blue collar worker. My mom, she's always worked in a warehouse. My dad worked in a factory, and unfortunately, they didn't have much to show for it. And when I had my landscaping company, there was kind of a turning point where I realized, gosh, I can take this to the next level, or I can branch out. Um, and while I was doing landscaping, there was a day where I was covering a shift for one of my employees because I called out sick, and we usually would run pretty lean. So I'm out there, I'm cold, it's wet, especially out here in Seattle. It rains all the time, and I see a real estate agent go across the street, go into a house, and come out maybe 20 minutes later. I'm like, this guy, he's probably making millions of dollars doing what? Just opening a door. And I just just was not really having it that day. I went home to my girlfriend and now lovely wife, and I was kind of venting to her. I'm like, yeah, I'm sitting there. I see this broker go in and out of a house, and he's making millions of dollars doing nothing. And she's like, well, if it's so easy, why don't you do it? Like, you know what? I will. So I talked to another buddy of mine who was a residential broker, and I just felt like it clicked. So I got out of the landscaping industry and started residential. So yeah.
Fantastic. Wow. And so going through that residential process, how long were you doing residential sales for, and what was your biggest lesson in that period of time?
I'm sorry, do you mind asking that again?
Yeah. So when you're doing residential, how long were you doing residential for? And what was your biggest lesson around that time of your life?
Yeah, so I did residential for about 2.5 years.
Hmm.
And what I found doing that was I was frankly shocked uh, at, it was less about sales. It was more about just helping people. And, I attribute a lot of my successes, frankly, just being honest. I would always have this thing of, every single home we'd go into, I would point out every single thing wrong with it. And, a lot of people would say, oh, not good at selling. But in my opinion, as a broker, the product should sell itself. If someone likes a home, they're going to like a home. It's all about which home are they really going to buy and who are they going to buy it through. So every home that I would go into, I essentially would just point out all the wrong things that I can find. And, I especially would use my landscaping background to let them know, like, hey, that tree is really close to the roof. We should get it inspected for rodents or this or that. So I'd say my biggest takeaway from my years of doing residential was, frankly, you don't need to sell, you just help people because money always follows.
Yeah, I love that. That's so true. That's so true. And then what got you intrigued then about the commercial side of things?
Yes. So while I was doing residential, the firm that I with, which I prefer not to mention, they had this lovely um, uh, uh, this lovely quota setup where they essentially would set the bottom line on how many homes you had to sell, the average of your team the previous quarter. Um, and when I joined, there was another lovely broker that joined the same time I did, same, amount of experience. She was also brand new. And out of 80 brokers on our team, I would always be top 10. I might not be first, second, or third, but I'd be ninth, and then she would be eighth, or I'd be seventh, she'd be sixth. So I always had this friendly competition. And while I was a broker, it was right during the COVID fiasco. And, I mean, I was writing probably 7 to 10 offers a week, maybe one of them every 2 weeks would actually go through.
Wow.
And what happened was, is since they would set the average of the previous quarter or the average of the team from the previous quarter as the floor of the current quarter, it became extremely stressful. It really
Yeah.
did. And I have always been very adamant about putting my client's interest first. And, I felt by having that bar, it prevented that. And at the same time, there was one day where um, the woman broker that I was mentioning previously, she supported her client, she supported her clients, and they backed out in inspection contingency. And because of that, she didn't hit the floor and she got cut. And I was frankly flabbergasted, because it's one thing when you're middle of the road or near the bottom, but when you're consistently, top 10 out of 80 brokers on your team, or oh, they would never cut me kind of thing. And on that day, I thought, oh my gosh, they cut her. They certainly would cut me.
Yep.
And that exact same day, I had a old landscaping client of mine who was a commercial broker, and we just stayed in touch through all the years. And he called me on that exact day, and it's like, "Hey, how are you liking residential, man?" And I was like, "Oh, funny you ask." And he said, "Listen, I don't want you to take this the wrong way. I feel like with your business experience, you would do really well in commercial." And commercial to me as a residential broker, I always just felt like the next level up, but not obtainable. Just had to expand my mind a little bit. And again, I went home to my wife and was like, "Gosh, you would never believe who called." And they were telling me about commercial brokerage and thought it'd be great. And my wife Vanessa, like she always is, she's like, "Do it." And I took the jump, and I probably best decision I ever made in my life. Like very happy.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. And what's been your biggest learnings or takeaways since being now in commercial? Hey guys, just a little side note here. How's it going? Are you on track this year? I know that sometimes this part of the year we can feel like we're in a bit of a grind, a bit of in the trenches. Are you on track from the original plans that you set out for the rest of this year? What I've realized is that between with this time of year, we get so distracted and we've got trying to chase so many shiny balls and go down so many rabbit holes. And that's why I created a program called the 90. It's a framework that actually allows you to achieve more in 90 days than ever before. Some of the feedback that we've got from some of the people that have used the process, the 90, is that they've achieved more in 90 days than the whole previous year. So if you'd like to have the tools, have the techniques, have the framework on the 90, so you and your team can achieve more in 90 days than ever before. What it does, it impacts you of how to get clear, what you need to do, and who you need to be to show up in order to achieve the things you want to achieve over the next 90 days. Simply head over to jamesshort.com.au, click on join the waitlist, fill in your details, and one of the team members will be in touch and take you through the 90 framework. On with the show.
Oh goodness. Everything is negotiable. Seriously. When it came to residential, I always told my clients the PSAs or the purchase and sale agreements, they're kind of like a puzzle, and you have main contingencies you can kind of swap in and out. And I'm sure you know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
Where um you kind of have a few ropes you can pull, right? And especially in the market that I was working in, I mean, the average home in my market, we were getting at the time, again, this is 2020, 2021, average home would get probably 25 plus offers. You didn't even stand a chance unless if you did, 15 to 20% over asking, over 5% early release of earnest money, and it just felt very limiting, and
Yep.
I'm like, gosh, I'm seeing these people put their life savings into this, where it's like, are they really satisfied at the end? And with commercial, it's so much more flexible. It really is. It's who's covering the HVAC. Okay, well, maybe my clients don't need 10,000 square feet now, but maybe we can pocket a little space where my clients are just paying for the triple net or OpEx if you're an industrial, for a section of that, but they're not paying the full base rent on it, and then we can open it up later. Or it's just many, many, many more ropes to pull.
Yeah. And would you also say that it's less of an emotional attachment when it comes to commercial compared to residential?
Oh, 100%, man. Yeah,
Mm.
100%. In residential, I had a situation once, where this is my client's probably fifth offer, and everyone put in, gosh, probably about 15 other offers we're going against, and my clients are already, they're stressed out. They're trying to transition, also selling their house in New Jersey and move out here in Seattle, and they've got this deadline for starting their job out here, and you know, we were told that we were going to get the reply by, I think it was like 8 p.m. And, I'm texting and calling the broker at 8, 8:30, 9 o'clock. My clients are blowing me up. And then I get a call at probably about 12:30 at night. And the other broker has been drinking quite a bit. And I can hear club music in the background. And, he's saying, well, you guys were the highest offer, but we want everyone to resubmit without the escalation. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. And, when I talk to my clients, I'd explain to them what they want. And we did push back and eventually win, but it was so much emotion. I mean, it was yelling and tears and it's stuff like that that I don't come across too often in commercial. There certainly is emotion,
Sure.
especially my firm, West Coast Commercial Realty. We're very big on working with the community. So, I've worked with anything from, gosh, 500 square feet up to, large development deals, publicly traded companies down to, first time business owners. And there certainly is emotion, especially when you're dealing with a more mom and pop shop, but compared to residential, little to none, I will say.
Yeah,
More
it's
foundational and brass tacks.
yeah, it's so true, so true. So what's on the horizon? What's your plan over the next six to 12 months with the commercial space for you?
For me personally,
Yeah.
yeah, right now, I've really been focusing on, and again, market kind of dictates on who I'm working with, but I've really been trying to focus more on landlord representation for larger national tenants. Um, it's a little bit more straightforward at times. I really do enjoy working with tenants, and I work with landlords and tenants, but transitioning only into landlords would be nice. So, I'm trying to make that transition, but at the same time, still working with tenants, still working with buyers, still working with the sellers. Only commercial. I don't touch a house anymore with a 10-foot pole. But yeah,
Nice, nice. Tyler, on the show, we have our 60-second quiz to find out more about our guests. Are you willing to play?
yeah, let's do it.
Cool. All right. Favorite food?
Favorite food, tuna casserole.
Nice. Favorite movie?
Good, bad, and the ugly.
Nice. Favorite holiday destination?
Out here in Seattle, there's a little lake called Lake Chelan, and it is like you're in a whole nother country. But it's about 3 hours from, probably about 5 hours, give or take, from Seattle, and definitely Chelan by far.
Beautiful, beautiful. Do you have a biggest regret?
I would say not getting into commercial sooner. Maybe the industry sooner, but I already got in when I was very young, so I can't beat myself up too much on that.
Nice. Do you have a morning routine on getting the morning started?
I do actually. I like to wake up. First thing I do is take my dog on a walk. No phone, nothing like that, no music, just me and Bean walking around the park. Come back, make coffee, and I give myself exactly 1 hour to reply to as many emails as possible. And then I open up myself right at 9 o'clock for calls and tours, appointments, and all that stuff. But I like that. I like to call it my power hour in the morning.
Oh, that's so good. That's so good. What about an evening routine? Do you have an evening routine?
Well, luckily, commercial is much more 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, than residential. Another reason why I swapped. So 5 o'clock, I've got a fairly strict cutoff with myself. So usually by 6, I'm either playing video games with my friends or hanging out with the wife.
Nice. And do you have a most embarrassing moment?
Oh God. I will say, uh, uh, yeah, yeah. I would say middle school in 8th grade, I broke my leg in wrestling practice,
Oh,
and there's about 4 or 5 months where I wasn't at school, and I came back on my first day. I've got this long cast on from my thigh down to my toes, coming in on crutches, and I walk into the school, or hobble into the school, I guess, with the crutches, and I see all my friends, and the first thing that I do is I slip because it's very rainy here in Seattle. My crutch slips out, and I like hobble on my broken leg and fall flat on my face, and it was mortifying for a middle schooler to do that. Absolutely mortifying.
oh gosh. Yes, and ouch, ouch. If you were president for the day, what's one thing that you would change?
Um, Probably have some type of universal health care, man. I mean, I've been self-employed for my whole adult life, and it is always a very frustrating process. Always, no
Mhm.
matter how good your healthcare is or who you have, it is just always very vexing.
Yeah, so true. If you could choose five inspirational people to have dinner with, who would they be? They could be dead or alive.
Oh goodness, Einstein, MLK, Obama, and uh, gosh, I think I only have three. I can't think of any. I can't think of two others off the top of my head, but those three
Nice.
certainly I would love to talk to.
Love it, love it. And what's your best piece of advice?
For someone in the industry,
Yep.
I would say network with as many people as possible. I read a book called Seven Levels of Communication. I'm not sure if you've read that or not, but genuinely, James, it transformed my entire career. Just putting people first, meeting as many people as possible, not thinking, can I sell to them? What can I get out of them? But seriously, just sit down with them and ask them, how can I help you? It has been transformative for my career.
That's so good. And how can the audience get in contact with you, follow your journey, and find out more?
Yeah, I mean, LinkedIn's always really good. You can follow my firm on Instagram, West Coast Commercial Realty. And I also have an Instagram, true.tylerb. We love to post on tenants that we're opening up or landlords we're representing or development deals that we're working on. So.
Awesome. Fantastic. Tyler, really appreciate your time, energy, and expertise and joining us on the show today.
Yeah, of course, man. Thank you, James.